If I were to ask you what the most common misconception about nutrition was by people I talked to, what would you think it was? Would you think it was calorie counting, portion control, maybe even Weight Watchers? You'd actually be wrong. In the past year, the most common idea that folks had about what a healthy diet consisted of protein and vegetables. And while these two things are important to a well-balanced diet, unfortunately, without a very critical element, you're not going to see the health or weight loss results you want. We'll get into what that is in just a second. My name is Pete Weintraub. I'm a permanent weight loss specialist. You are watching the live stream of the Weight Loss by Pete podcast on my YouTube channel, and you are listening at a later time to my podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. So getting back, protein and vegetables, chicken, grilled chicken and steamed broccoli, baked fish like salmon with steamed broccoli. Eating that, and you're going to be good to go, right? Not so fast. Now, there are three macronutrients that comprise the human diet, right? So to review what those are, there's fat, protein, and carbs. Now, there's two types of macronutrients. There's essential macronutrients and non-essential macronutrients. Well, there's a non-essential macronutrient. Of the three macronutrients, two are essential. What that means is that our bodies do not produce enough of these macronutrients within the body in order to function optimally. In order to be healthy, we need to ingest these in the form of food. What are those two macronutrients? Fat and protein. What is the non-essential macronutrient? Meaning our bodies can produce enough of these on their own through our fat stores primarily in order to function. The answer: carbohydrates. So vegetables, depending on their starch content and obviously their fructose levels, whether they have a high glycemic index or glycemic load, can vary sporadically throughout the glycemic spectrum. That being said, they are comprised mainly of carbohydrates and protein, a combination of the two. There's little to no fat in any vegetable that I know of. Now, protein can have fat in it, obviously, like certain types of ground beef are very fatty, certain types of steaks are very fatty, certain fish are very fatty. But for the most part, poultry is very lean. Rabbit, which I would never eat because there's one right next to me over here, is very lean. So is a lot of wild game. So you do need, and I believe I was actually listening to Joe Rogan podcast earlier today. I forget the condition they were talking about. I didn't even realize that this was a thing. But there is a condition where people do not eat adequate amounts of fat. It's like there's a protein issue going on because they're eating very lean cuts of protein and they're not getting adequate nutrition from what they're eating. Dietary fat is crucially important, and I would argue, and a lot of people within the nutritional community and scientific community would argue, that it's the most important macronutrient. Now, there are certain types of bad fats. Fat's been demonized for the past 60 plus years. I won't get into the long history lesson about how lobbyists from the sugar corn industries infiltrated Washington, D.C., and lobbied to demonize dietary fat in place of those two things, which were even back in the 1950s linked to the increased rates of heart disease, cancer, and obesity, but that's neither here nor there. What we are going to talk about is the fact that dietary fat, especially omega-3 fats, are very crucial to rebuilding of cells. And on top of that, to brain function, improving brain function. Your brain runs on fat. It can be fueled by carbohydrate, but we operate best when we're running on fat. Our brains run on fat. We want to ingest copious amounts of dietary fat in order to achieve that. Also, dietary fat helps to lubricate the joints. If you experience a lot of knee pain or joint pain anywhere, elbow, knee, shoulder, wherever, very good chance that if you just introduce more healthy dietary fat into your diet, you would see an alleviation of that through nothing else, through that being really the only means of mediation in there. Just introducing dietary fat can help alleviate much of your joint pain. It's pretty cool. Also, unlike carbohydrates, which going through a process called the insulin resistance cycle, ton of blood sugar, right? Your pancreas really produces insulin to handle that blood sugar. Whatever is needed at that time is sent to the appropriate cells, muscles, and tissues. The rest stored as fat. That's why, like I said earlier, fat is nothing more than stored energy, can be converted to glucose to fuel your cells, muscles, and tissues at a later time, especially if you're going through a period of drought or famine and food is not readily available. So that's why you see some of these really heavy people going on fasts for months or even up to a year at a time, because they have so much excess body fat that they can actually physically afford to do that. And obviously, that also puts them in a process or a state of autophagy where their cells are regenerating themselves, getting rid of the toxic, harmful cells and replacing them with newer, healthier cells. That's neither here nor there. I don't recommend long-term fasts like that. You obviously want to see a medical professional if you're ever thinking of doing something like that. It's an extremely difficult thing to do. If you want to fast in any way, shape, or form, I would recommend intermittent fasting. And that is just a form of eating that I've advocated for a while, where you fast for a 16-hour period and you eat within an 8-hour window. So like from noon to 8 p.m., let's say, every day. You eat all your food for the day and you don't eat again until noon the next day. It's essentially the only type of fasting that I recommend. If you're going to do a longer term fast, again, see a medical professional, make sure that you're healthy enough and you're cleared to do that and that you're medically supervised to, so that you could do it the right way. But anyway, when you're eating a diet, again, consisting of protein and vegetables, there is a condition, I'm sorry that I don't remember what it's called, that essentially shows that you're in a state of malnourishment. You need a well-balanced diet. And I'm not saying carbs can't be a part of it. They can be. But again, non-starchy vegetables, low glycemic fruits. That sense, eat meats, non-starchy vegetables, raw nuts and seeds, low glycemic fruit, half a cup or less of non-grain-based starch, no added sugar. So the non-starchy vegetables, low glycemic fruits, half a cup or less of non-grain-based starch. That's where you want to get your carbs from. Protein, you want to eat at moderate amounts of protein. So whatever, it can be a fatty cut of protein that has both fat and protein, or it can be a leaner cut of protein. But you want to add back in that fat, which you can do through, again, fattier cuts of meat or types of meat like beef, fish. You can do it through avocado, nuts, seeds, things of that nature. There are plenty of ways to get adequate amounts of dietary fat in, but you want to eat a well-balanced diet. Otherwise, geez, I can't speak today. You're risking malnourishment. You don't want to risk malnourishment, because that's not going to set your body up for good success, not just on your weight loss journey, but your health journey in general. So that's stupid. And then on top of that too, let's talk about it from the mental side. We just talked about the physical side, why it's not a good idea. Mentally speaking, the human species, and I know this from firsthand experience, is a very rebellious species. Think Prohibition in the United States, when alcohol was outlawed in the 20s and 30s, and in the Great Depression. There were speakeasies, underground places where people would buy and drink alcohol illegally because, you know, it was demonized. People were being arrested and prosecuted for selling or drinking the stuff. Think about your teenage years. Your parents tell you, don't drink alcohol, don't do drugs, don't have sex before you're married, or don't have sex without protection. What do you end up doing? All that shit, right? Because you were told not to, and you're told you're going to regret it, you're going to regret it, you're going to get a hangover, you're going to get in trouble, whatever. And you end up doing it anyway because you're a teenager. You need to make your own mistakes, but especially when you're told not to, right? It's just our rebellious nature as human beings. So if we're eating a very strict and restrictive diet of just grilled or baked protein and steamed or grilled or baked vegetables, it gets very boring after a while. Yes, there's a dozen or so sources of meat that you can eat from animals. There's also dozens and dozens of vegetables that you can eat. But you're going to get bored. You need some sweet in there once in a while, and they call fruit God's candy or nature's candy. You can go about it that way. And if you have low glycemic fruit, like I said, you're not jacking up your blood sugar like you would if you're eating a high glycemic fruit or just a highly sugary processed food in general. And you're going to be in much better straits, right? So eating a well-balanced diet is key, and allowing yourself the occasional indulgence. Now, the cool thing is the internet is so abundant in healthy recipes. Google any meal, snack, or dessert that you want. Healthy recipe for X, and it will pop it out for you. Specifically, type in paleo recipe for X or keto recipe for X. You're going to find hundreds, if not thousands, of different takes on popular, delicious dishes, and often these dishes are just as good, if not better, or they might even have a little bit of a different spin, but you still love it, and you replace what may be a harmful favorite of yours to being a good favorite. There are also good meal delivery services. I recommend Factor 75. Link to that in the description below. They deliver fresh, healthy, organic meals to your door every week. And you can specify the number of meals that you want. I use it personally for dinner. It's easy for me to heat up. So after a long day out in the field, like I just got home, so I got to edit this and everything for you and record this for you, but then I'm going to eat. So it's a lot easier to heat something up that I know is healthy with good quality ingredients rather than throwing something together, trying to force myself to cook and being like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to get takeout, and probably making a bad decision. Now, that brings me to my next point. You don't have to be perfect. So even if you plan ahead, even if you find a healthy recipe or a healthy food delivery service to make your life easier, and it's balanced with healthy fats and proteins and non-starchy vegetables, low glycemic fruits, raw nuts and seeds, all that stuff, you can still indulge, and I use air quotes if you're not able to watch, you can indulge in some of the crap, the processed crap, the booze, whatever, that maybe you were indulging in excess, and that's why you're obviously looking to lose weight or improve your health. And you don't have to be perfect. You know, an 80-20 rule tends to be okay. And obviously, the closer to 100 you could get, the better. So if you do have a bad meal, or you go out for a night of drinking and you drink too much crap or whatever, even if you have a bad week, you get back on the horse. You make healthy eating a key part of your lifestyle. And even when you do slip up from time to time, once you get back on the horse, your body is very resilient. We're ingesting, whether we like it or not, toxic chemicals all day, sometimes in the foods that we eat, the air outside, air pollution, in the water that we clean ourselves with and brush our teeth with, and maybe even drink if you do drink tap water. There's pollutants and all that shit. And our bodies are very resilient in that we can go decades and decades without acquiring an illness due to this stuff, without becoming obese, without any of this stuff happening to us. So the body is incredibly resilient, and and that's definitely a good thing. So if you mess up once in a while, that's okay, especially if most of the time you're fueling your body with a well-balanced diet, with all the stuff I mentioned before, and it's functioning optimally, and then you throw it a curveball, it's more prepared to hit that fucking curveball out of the park than it would have been if you were fueling it with junk constantly and it was running slow and it was breaking down, almost like a car. You fuel a premium car with garbage, it's going to break down a hell of a lot faster than if you fill it with premium. It's that simple, folks. So moral of the story, a diet of just protein and vegetables is stupid, both from a biological standpoint as well as a mental standpoint. Eat a well-balanced diet, and if you do slip up once in a while nutritional, you have a quote-unquote cheat meal or whatever the case may be, not a big deal. Get back on the horse, make this a lifestyle change. Remember, 66 days, so a little over 2 months to form a habit, and you make healthy eating a habit, your body will function optimally. When you fall off, it'll be temporary, because I can promise you, even if you want to make it worse off than it is, guess what? Your body is not going to respond well. I can tell you from first-hand experience, I give myself a 24-hour window every weekend to eat and drink whatever I want. And even though that helps alleviate a lot of my cravings, what ends up happening the day after, which is usually a Sunday, is my stomach bothers me. I go to the bathroom a little often in ways that I don't like to go to the bathroom, and it dissuades me from continuing that way of eating on Sunday and going forward until the following weekend. And it's been shown in certain scientific literature to help you kind of reboot your system so it's functioning optimally, say Monday through Saturday, and then you eat like crap Saturday, and then Sunday it reboots, and then you're back on track. It's actually a good way to keep your system as activated as possible. So that might be something that you try to do. Or if you have 2 or 3 bad cheat meals throughout the week, that's fine too. Whatever works for you. But if you eat healthy a vast majority of the time, a well-balanced diet that's not just protein and veggies, that's not depriving of yourself, you find healthy recipes and alternatives that both taste good and are good for you, food delivery services that are available, the occasional indulgence, you're going to be more than fine. I hope you like this video. So guys, if you like this video or you like this podcast, please subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and leave me a comment or review. I'll ultimately do this for you. I want to hear from you. How can I do better? Did you like this? What did you like about it? Is there a topic you'd like me to cover? I'll be sure to cover that in the coming weeks. And I'd also like to gift you with my free report. It details the 5 strategies that I personally used to lose 100 pounds and keep them off. These are the same 5 strategies that I teach my permanent weight loss clients, and they're the basis to losing weight and getting healthy once for all. There's a video right up here that you can check out that'll explain it in a little bit further detail, but the link is in the description below. And also, if you want more help to kind of have your cake and eat it too, in the description below as well, there's a link to both my food guide and healthy recipe book. The food guide details the 3 phases of nutrition that I teach my permanent weight loss clients. You can go through that. It explains kind of what we went over today, but in more detail. And then there's the healthy recipe book. It has 72 recipes spanning breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, appetizers, and desserts. Normally, I sell these books individually for $25 each, but if you get it today, $13.99. Can't beat that. Again, those links are in the description below. This is Pete Weintraub, permanent weight loss specialist. I'm signing off. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. I'll come back at you tomorrow with just one video or podcast. Talk to you then.